Well, greetings to you. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the World Economic Forum. A few years ago, I was at a show, an agricultural show, with one of Yorkshire's largest landowners. It was a few years ago, and it was when Liz Truss was sort of battling for leadership of the Conservative Party, Liz Truss and Sunak. And he said to me, who do you think will get it? Who should get it? So on and so forth. And he asked me these sort of questions, although I'm not a Conservative, and he feels that I have my finger on the pulse, which I don't often have, incidentally. And I said, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter, because we are now run by the World Economic Forum, and it doesn't matter who you vote for. You don't get what you want. You get what the World Economic Forum wants us to have. And when it comes to the World Economic Forum, I'm talking about the whole conglomerate of that gang. The United Nations, the WHO, World Health Organization, the IMF, so on and so forth. This sort of cartel of the great and the bad who run most of Western Europe, most of Europe probably now, and parts of North America. And he looked at me quizzically and he said, World Economic Forum, just remind me who they are. And this is typical, I think, today, of most people, not the people watching today, because if you're watching this video, you're probably a subscriber and you're probably already informed. So I'm preaching to the choir, I know. But I thought I'd gallop through the World Economic Forum for those of you who perhaps don't know. The World Economic Forum, who run everything now, they run the newspapers, they run TV, everything that arrives on your screen is within the WEF remit. It's their view, or the UN, or the IMF, or the WHO. They're all one and the same. So you're not getting a free press. You're not getting information. And if you go about your life, as most of us do, a life of quiet desperation, trying to put food on the table and pay the mortgage and all the rest of it, you don't really have much time to sort of drill down and find out what on earth is going on. Let me just cover the goals of the World Economic Forum and their acolytes. They believe in a global government. Global governance, they believe it should be centralized and everybody should do exactly as they're told. And that's the best way forward for mankind, if you will, or the planet. Now, to get us to comply with their rather outlandish ideas, which we otherwise wouldn't do, they have to feed us duff information all the time. And that's what they do. So they drip feed everything. And we saw that through the lockdown, through COVID, all these things. And now, of course, we're getting it for climate. No dissent is allowed. You must conform. And this is how they get their way, if you will, their 15-minute cities and so on and so forth. All the things they want to do to curtail our freedom, they have to present as being for our own good. And this is how they try to sell it to us. And of course, with 80% of the population fast asleep, it's rather an easy thing to do. And of course, your entire education system, your state education systems in Europe and in North America are all following this line. So your children come home and tell you that if we don't do this and we don't do that, the world is going to boil to death and other such stupid nonsense. So this is what they're after. Now, what else are their goals apart from central governance? They want the deindustrialization, certainly of Europe and really the planet, but they want deindustrialization and they believe in the Malthusian concept. What is that? Well, that just means that they believe that the world can't survive unless the population is around about halved, if not more than halved. So they do not have your interests at heart. They don't want you to be alive. The great and the good think there are too many of you. The great and good don't think there are too many of them. They think there's too many of us. They don't think that they travel too much, that their so-called carbon footprint is too big, but ours is. So they can float around in their private jets. They can go on holiday wherever they like. They can fly around the globe. They can do just as they choose, but it's us who are the problem. We're the ones that occasionally go on an annual holiday to Spain, and we like to drive our car to work or whatever it happens to be and not take the bus. We are the problem, not them. And this is what we're having to deal with. If you look back to Her Majesty, it was only about 2 years ago when she came out, and I did make comment on this at the time, we're going to have to change the way we do things, obviously heavily influenced by her son, who is, if you will, the leader and promoter in certainly in this country of the World Economic Forum. There are those who believe he's the actual leader of it, and he is not. And Klaus Schwab is his number two. But you could argue that Klaus Schwab is the number one, and the King Charles III, is his number two. Very difficult to know what's going on, and I don't, and we may never find out. I don't know. So this is the problem that we have, and of course then you've got the lineup. Who are the lineup? Well, you have the Archbishop of Canterbury, who's an outright supporter of the World Economic Forum, and he's on their platform by and by, and it's no conspiracy theory. You can look it up easily, very easy to Google. The Chancellor of the Exchequer, the leader of the opposition. Only a year ago, when he was asked did he think Davos was more important than Parliament, he was quite honest about it, for Kier Starmer.
Let us just ask you quickly, you have to choose now between Davos or Westminster.
Davos.
And he said, Davos is far more important because this is where things happen. This is what the planet now is all about. This is what politics is all about. So he's quite open. It doesn't matter who you vote for. You won't get what you want. You won't get the party you want. You won't get the policies you want, which is fascinating because in a couple of years' time, he'll be standing for Parliament. He'll want to be Prime Minister. The question that we need to ask him is why? Why do you want to be? You don't believe in Parliament. You don't believe in parliamentary democracy by your own admission. Why would you want to be in number 10 Downing Street? And of course, the past people we've had, Theresa May, so on and so forth. Now, what is the way of doing this? What is the way of doing this? Well, of course, if you want global governance, you have to undermine what goes before. So if people are talking about the Great Reset or Build Back Better and all these kind of buzz phrases that every single Prime Minister has come out with now for the last 2 years, every single one of them has come out with this kind of nonsense, this kind of buzzword bingo. What does it mean?
It's a very pertinent question to ask, how do we build back better?
To build back better or whatever.
We have a chance to reset the clock and build back better than before.
Build back better.
Building back better.
To do things differently. To build back better.
And build it back better.
My plan to build back better.
Start taking all the problems that have been created in education and mental health and start to build back in a positive way.
Growing conspiracy following it. It is called the Great Reset.
An unprecedented opportunity to rethink and reset the ways in which we live.
The great opportunity for reset.
Build back better.
Building back better our economy.
Build back better.
All elements of the Great Reset are fundamental to building the future we need.
This pandemic has provided an opportunity for a reset.
It's a big effort to, some would say, to build back better. We would say to really have a great reset.
Well, in order to get their way of global governments, and they're quite open about this, you have to you have to destroy the natural human feeling of loyalty to one's family, which comes first for most of us. Our families are first, our tribe, if you will. So if you're a Yorkshireman, it's to Yorkshire, and then if you take a broader view, it's to England, and then to Great Britain or the United Kingdom, so on and so forth. But you have to undermine that. Now, how do you undermine that? Well, first of all, you undermine people's attachment to their history and to their way of life and their culture and their religion and their responsibilities to their family. All these things are being undermined as we speak. They don't want religion, which is why the Archbishop of Canterbury is quite obviously destroying the Anglican Church in everything he does. And you can Google him up and you probably feel the same way. The churches are empty, which is his goal. He wants empty churches. He doesn't want a traditional Christian country who think along Christian lines. And it's the same with the Catholics are losing their grip as well. They're losing their traditional religions and attitude to religions and teachings. You have to make sure that people don't believe any of that, so they're ready to eat bugs and live in their 15-minute cities. I just don't know how far this is going to go because it's all so bloody ridiculous, but this is the way they seem to be getting away with it so far. There are already many cities introducing this 15-minute plan. Bath, Canterbury and various other towns are going for it under pressure from government, and you don't know how gullible your local politicians are. In my experience, they're extremely stupid and gullible, and even in comparison with our parliamentary, your MP is probably either not very bright or he's also in the pocket of World Economic Forum. So all these things are lining up. All these things are lining up, and they get away with it because we don't have a free press. We don't any longer have a parliamentary democracy, and this is how it is until we actually push back. And we have to push back, and I've said this before, and people say, well, how can we do that? We know this is happening, how we can do that? Well, one of the biggest purveyors of false information and fake science, of course, as you know, is the BBC. What can you do? What's the thing that you can do day one? What can you do day one? What can you do in the morning? Cancel your banker's order or don't write your check to the BBC. That is something that you can do. Because if anybody has any dissent against the World Economic Forum and its policies, they won't appear on your television. In fact, World Economic Forum won't even be discussed. Open door immigration, which is a big part of the World Economic Forum agenda. How do you undermine a country? Well, you actually swamp it with illegal immigrants who don't have the same culture, who don't have the same attitudes, and who are also, rather frighteningly, not genuine refugee families. So we know you've only got to look at the boats. They're generally speaking incomers who are male in between the ages of 18 and 30, and they're coming in their thousands. To what end? Well, we don't know. And we know certainly some of them have criminal backgrounds, but we don't know because there's no system of vetting. So it goes on and it goes on until a country becomes unrecognizable. France is already unrecognizable. The United States is becoming unrecognizable. Canada is unrecognizable. You see how it's going on, and they all sing off the same hymn sheet. They are all the same people. And if it isn't oligarchs like Bill Gates or George Soros, it's people who have done the WEF training course, which actually means almost all Western politicians have been at some stage heavily attached to the World Economic Forum. And indeed, Carl Schwab, who is the president of the World Economic Forum, boasts about it. We've infiltrated governments all over the world.
And I mention now names like Mrs. Merkel, even Vladimir Putin and so on. They all have been young global leaders of the World Economic Forum. Mm-hmm. But what we are very proud of now is the young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina and so on, that we penetrate the cabinets.
He's totally upfront about it. And some people shout, some morons shout, conspiracy theorist. I'm not a conspiracy theorist at all. There is a conspiracy. It's not a theory. It's not a hypothesis. It's there for everyone to see. They have a website. Look up World Economic Forum on their website, their own website. Have a look at my website, which shows you clips and praises of what they're saying. And sad to say, and I speak as a monist, the biggest danger, the biggest leader for the World Economic Forum in this country is our king. As most of you know, my work is very heavily independently research-based, and I get my information from all over the world. It would help if you press the subscribe button and the little bell next to it, because the more subscribers I have, the more likely it is that international independent research institutes will share their material with me. It's most helpful, and then of course I automatically share it with you. So surprise, won't cost you anything. Thank you very much.